all par for the course. It's the beginning of the whole organization.
Read it out loud so that you have those words in your brain. Can you read those? Provides assistance, support, enhancement, and training.
Was that Jen? Provides assistance, support, enhancement, and training. Provides assistance, support, enhancement, and training.
Okay, and we're starting right now.
Okay, fantastic. So this morning, I'm really happy to be here. I'm Alison Emery, and I'm here with Executive Director of California Recovers, Kymberly Lind, and we're going to find out a little bit more about you today, right, Kymberly?
Yes, thank
and
you.
hopefully we're going to learn a little bit more about California Recovers as well.
Yep.
So tell me a little bit about how things were for you before you got into recovery, before your life took its turn, before you landed here. What brought you here?
Yeah. So when it comes to mental health or life's experiences, I started to experience like mental health things when I was very, very, very young, maybe 4 or 5 years old. I was just sort of an eccentric, different, very energetic, excited person, and they kind of started classifying that as classic ADD baby back in those days. And I just felt incredibly like loving and outgoing and kind and like adventurous. And I would orchestrate and get every child in the neighborhood together to build tree houses and go-karts, and everyone would listen and we would do amazing things. And I thought,
What a great childhood.
Yeah, it was. It was very fun. And although I had no impulse control. So when I was told to sit in your seat and be a good little girl, it was really hard to do that. And I felt like a really good little girl anyways, like really incredibly loving and kind and artistic and but society was telling me I was a terrible, person. And if I would just sit in my seat, I'd be a good little girl. And so I started to receive services from mental health services at a very young age. And I inevitably started drinking and using at 9 years old. And what a great solution that was, because it really helped me to manage a lot of those inabilities to stay in my seat and be a good little girl. I felt like much more chill. And then I had addiction issues. So there's, now the drinking and the drugging is now an issue in society and with school. And it was just very, 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 very conflicting and confusing because the drugs worked. And so along the lines...
Talk about that for a minute. The drugs worked.
Yeah.
So you were experiencing some painful circumstances and emotions and feelings. And for a minute, the drugs actually stopped all that.
Yeah. And that's where the conflict for medication management and symptoms and diagnosis and addiction and all the different elements come in so convoluted, because that's exactly what would happen, is that they did help. And then
for a minute.
My tolerance level was far exceeding most people's, even at the age 9, 10, 11 years old. So I needed to stop using and couldn't. So when I needed to and I couldn't, so at 11, I was a very outgoing person. So I did breakdancing and I lived on the streets. So I hit the streets when I was 11, and I lived all across Hollywood Boulevard doing breakdancing back in the day. I was a great pop locker and breakdancer on the linoleum, and we would tape the pieces of cardboard together. And I was that performer out on the street corners of Hollywood. And I lived there until I was 17. And all those years I received different types of services from like counselors, therapists, school counselors, juvenile hall, detention centers, mental health services, all kinds of things, and different community activities, and a lot of runaway homes and different things. So all those years, I just continued street performing, and what a great life that was. It was really great for my mental health because I was physically exerting myself. I was acting out artistically and in a complete fantasy land, which is part of my symptoms for bipolar. It's like an amazing place to exist in.
Yeah, those manics.
Yeah.
They can be really
That was my
productive and
favorite.
exciting, yeah.
Yeah, those are my favorite. But when the depression kinds of things started happening in my latter years is when I would really plummet out emotionally. It was just so foreign to me because I've always been able to pick myself up and do well and feel better.
Yeah.
But
So you're out there surviving and even thriving on the streets at one point. When did things go bad for you?
Well, there was a lot of trauma, as you can imagine, for a child that's 11 on the streets at 11.
yeah.
So there's a lot of trauma that goes along with living on the streets. However, there was a lot of trauma before that also.
Yeah.
So I went to I went to rehab at 17, almost 18 years old, and fell in love with what treatment services, what recovery was. I felt love.
You felt safe.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I felt a fellowship in a 12-step organization and in a recovery community. I felt love for really the first time in my entire life. And that was amazing. And that was 1989, a million years ago. And so all these years later, I continued to stay involved in recovery communities. So I've had a lot of years of experience in different types of treatment modalities, recovery-based things, spiritual modalities, like nutrition.
Just loads and loads of life experience in this arena.
Yeah,
Yeah,
in
that's
recovery.
really cool.
Yeah, it's lots of experience seeking different. So that's what my conclusion was about, I don't know, 10 years ago. Let's see. Well, it would have been, I think I met you in 2009, 2000.
I think it was earlier than that.
Well, I would have met you probably 2007.
Yeah, I want to say 2007. Yeah.
Yeah.
Because I distinctly remember meeting you. We were at an outside self-help group, and you just kind of bopped in all sunshine and happiness and breezy, and I just wanted to know who you were right away. And I remember at the time you told me you had 7 years clean and that your birthday was that day.
Oh, wow.
Or the day before or something like that. And I was just so excited to meet you. I felt connected to you right away. And I said, come back to this meeting and I'll bring you a cake. And we'll celebrate your 7 years. Do you remember that?
I do.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, I mean, like for me, it was almost instantaneous. I felt a kinship with you.
Yeah, me too with you because you're joyful, you're kind, you're loving, you're giving, you're outgoing, and that's a rarity to find sometimes. There's not a lot
Well,
of...
you and I, we really love people, don't we? I mean, that's the root of it. We just love our people so much.
Yeah, and we like to have a good time and treat people like have a lot of fun with a lot of love.
Yeah, fun is good. So that was probably what, 2007?
Yeah, let's see.
Okay.
Yep. I would have been, because I got clean and my recovery started for complete abstinence for my long-term recovery in 2000. May 7th, 2000 is when my last date of use was.
Awesome, 2007. That's a big accomplishment. You're really an inspiration to so many people.
In 2007, you were doing something incredible with the county and with peer support and the recovery movement. I remember at that time I chose to go live. You know, I wasn't homeless. I was living in my car.
Okay.
And I was graduating from college. I wanted to get I had gotten my GED. I stopped going to school in the 6th grade, obviously, 5th, 6th grade. A little bit. I went to few semesters, half a school year in 7th grade, and then that was it. So then fast forward, when I was 21, I got my GED, and at that time I learned I wasn't stupid like society or like my head had said.
That's obvious.
I took this, thank you, I took this GED test and passed with flying colors, no problem, didn't even study for it. So then I wanted to get a college degree, so I thought I'm going to go to college, and then I wanted to get my college. So I chose a career that was like a 2-year school length.
Okay.
So it would have been like nursing, and then I was like, oh, I can't stand if a baby came in all bloody. I would just flip my lid. I would just dance around in circles. I wouldn't even know how to handle those situations, so I didn't want to do that. So I thought, cosmetology, I'll do that. 2-year program, graduate from school. So I lived in my car, and I had a bicycle, and I went to the gym every day so that I could shower in health and fitness. And every day that I rode the bike, when I had a job at Coco's, so I would ride the bike from downtown Riverside all the way up to Orange Crest, long distance. And I would sometimes put the bike on the bus, and I would think, this is amazing. Like, I'm contributing so much to the earth and to the elements and for the global warming. Like, I'm so wise because I'm saving so much money. And I would have these wonderful conversations with the community that was on the bus. And like, I just had this, but I was completely unmedicated at that time. No medication, just all my recovery tools, which were working pretty good. But I didn't have a lot of introduction into the recovery movement and county services from Riverside County. And at that time, you kept saying to me, Kymberly, we're doing this amazing peer program. You would be so great at this. And I would go, no, Allison, this is what I'm doing. I'm doing this, and this is an amazing plan, and this is what I'm doing. And then after I graduated from RCC's cosmetology, and I got my license to do hair, I realized quickly that I really wasn't qualified to cut hair.
Okay, then.
I would put my hands on women's hair, and I just would trim a little bit of off the edges. I could never imagine pulling hair up and cutting it. It just, I was too afraid. I just didn't get
not
it.
your cup of tea.
Yeah, even though they gave me my cosmetology license.
That's crazy.
It was amazing. Yeah, it was
That's
crazy.
really crazy.
Yeah. And so I had two great friends, Catherine and Joanna at that time, my mentors and best friends. And they were like, you're homeless. I'm like, I am not homeless. I live in my car. It's a perfect plan. And I was changing my life at that time. And then eventually I was like...
And I had no idea you were in your car at that time.
No.
Yeah, no idea. You just kept it so separate.
Yeah, it wasn't a problem. That's the whole thing about
Gotcha.
having mental health symptoms and things. You exist in them, you live in them. I have learned over the years to love it, honor it, be grateful for it. It's actually a gift.
Sure, I agree with that.
Addiction is a gift because
Agreed.
I can get wrapped around things and just really do a great job with it, positive things. So I use that positively. And then mental health is beautiful. Very creative and
Very,
loving. And I think that for mental health, for me, I take notice, a lot of people that I know that have mental health, to things that most people pass and never notice in their lifetime. The people on the streets and the colors of the flowers and just incredibleness everywhere I go. I see it, I want to experience it, I want to smell it, I want to feel it.
Yeah, we've really, really learned and developed a gratefulness for the collateral beauty around us. I remember thinking just the other day, gosh, this wind on my face feels so good.
Yeah.
I'm just enjoying this so much,
Yeah.
And that's a gift.
Yeah.
That
it
really is a gift.
is. And then loving on that population of people, whether they're in the biggest skyscraper around the world, the most fancy folks in the universe, it's any class, it's any stature, it's any profession, it's anybody in any part of the continent can have these gifts and challenges.
100%.
And
we all do at some point or another in our lives. I mean, no human being gets through their entire life without experiencing something. We talk about mental illness in terms of something that somebody else might have or somebody might get, and it's terrible. But the truth of the matter is mental health or mental unwellness is just something that goes throughout life just like physical illness, where I might be healthy one day and have a cold the next day, or I might have pneumonia and need to go in the hospital. Right. The brain is the same way. We have moments of complete and utter wellness and moments when we're not so great. And a good example of that would be a perfectly healthy woman that just gave birth experiencing postnatal depression. While you wouldn't think of them as being mentally ill, it really is a mental illness.
Yes.
And of course, it's one that can change. So I think talking about these things normally helps to reduce the stigma around these issues that people have.
Yeah.
And so it's exciting to hear you being so open and talking about it so positively, and to understand that, that it can be a gift if you tap into it. That's fabulous. Yeah.
And I appreciate the DSM, and you know more about that and what that actually maybe even stands for. But that's a medical documented diagnosis. And in that book, the most current ones even, mental health and substance use is an actual diagnosis, just like cancer or diabetes.
And as it should be, right?
Yeah. And so I want people to know that.
Yeah. I mean, the brain is an organ, right? It's just like any other organ in your body. Your heart, your liver, your spleen, your brain is an organ. It might need a little assistance. It might need medication. It might need activities that naturally raise the dopamines and the feel-good chemicals in the brain. Yeah. There's lots of exciting things to share with people.
Yes.
And these are things that you've been experiencing in your own life.
Yes.
And so you're taking your story now, and what are you going to do with it?
Yeah, so all these years, even as a recipient of services and active in my recovery community. I then became a professional. So at some point is when I did go to work for Riverside County Mental
Yeah.
Health Department as a peer support. And thank you, because it was a pivotal, incredible, changing point of my life.
It was a great time.
Well,
Yeah.
it
Exciting.
It contribute because when you have experiences with those diagnoses and all these different things, I never thought that I could have ever had a career, like a real career. Like I would have thought that I could only be, cleaning houses and then
Waiting
I was even
tables, yeah.
and even then that's a great career.
Sure.
But that's not for someone like me. I'll just always be the servants kind of thing. And I was fine with that. I was grateful for that. But at some point, it started to become obvious to me that because I had opportunities presented to me.
Yeah.
And as...
And the great thing about peer support is all of these terrible things that, all these experiences that you've had that you thought might destroy your ability to have a career or to live a productive life or even just have a good relationship. All of those things are the things that equip you to do the work you're doing now.
Yeah. I remember having my interview as a peer
Yeah.
support, and they were like, you need to be on. I think you were sitting across from me at the table. Here I am, riding a bike and all this business, and I'm going for an interview, and there's this panel of people in business clothes, and here I am and I'm sitting on this side of the table alone, and it was very scary and exciting. And when I was asked to be honest, okay, and so they asked, do you have substance use? And I said, yes. Mental health, yes. Okay, great, you qualify. It's like, what? I can work for the county, and then once I was working as an employee for the county, then I learned so much more incredible skills and abilities and opportunities. So I got even more exposure to recovery and all its different avenues and the symptoms and the lifestyles and the different people.
Yeah.
And I started to grow this desire to help even more people because I realized that it all was connected, mental health and substance use, because again, the substances work.
Yeah, absolutely.
So finding the right combination of medications that also worked, or my particular recovery plan, I started to realize that there was no one cookie cutter. And when you go across the United States and when you go across the world, there are so many different avenues, and everybody has their different challenges and their different solutions.
Right.
And so I began to be so open-minded to that. And so I was looking at really what was happening that I started to see was by the boatloads, people were dying. And the solutions were so cookie cutter. It's like, no. There's lots of different ways for all these people to get help. There is not one way. And I wanted an opportunity to have that shared. I wanted many people to know that there's a way for you. And then, peer support taught me through the things that you really put together is that what works for you. For me, what worked for me was not typical for everybody in my recovery community or in the city, but it's really what helped me. And some of what everybody else was telling me I had to do or that worked for them actually helped me too. But some of my riding my bicycle and those were very helpful things for me.
Sure.
And so eventually finding the right types of medications was important to health, fitness, nutrition, what kind of food I put in my body, whether I exercised or how I took care of myself mentally, spiritually, emotionally, and then...
So that time was really a chance for you to put together your own recovery plan from A to Z, what you required to be healthy and happy in life. Yeah. And you accomplished that. And you've been now using that plan or a variation of it for years, right?
Yeah, well, over 30 years. Mm-hmm. And even before that, I went to my first therapy session, I think, when I was 10. So I went to and throughout all those durations of, well, actually, it was even prior to that. So there was all those years of experience of different types of treatment services and modalities and spiritual stuff. So I looked into many different religions, and I got into the Christian Catholic catechism, and then I also did the Christian thing where I was baptized, and then I sought out different type of spiritual modalities, maybe through some Buddhist walking meditations, different types of meditations and synagogues, and just started seeking out many different, looking for the solution, what worked well for me. And what I've found all along this journey is there's a lot of people doing amazing things.
Oh, there are. It's exciting to see what's
Yeah.
going on all over the world.
Yeah.
But even in our country, there's a real movement happening right now. Yeah.
And so that's inevitably why and where California Recovers came from, is because there was Mobilized Recovery, which is Ryan Hampton and Garrett. There's a group of people nationwide throughout the United States that really have a passion and about helping people with the opiate crisis across the country, because we currently have over 200 people dying a day just from opiates, and then there's about 360 dying a day from addiction, and we have a huge rise in methamphetamines and coke is making a huge comeback.
And of course, Chinese fentanyl is everywhere.
Yes, the fentanyl,
Right,
and that's
the fentanyl.
that's the real issue.
That is
it's
the real
even
issue.
in marijuana now, and
Yeah.
that's
Yeah.
what's
It's
in the
frightening.
meth. And people don't know that, and they've been users for a while, and now they're experiencing different effects and different
Right.
things are happening to them, and they're now realizing that it's because there's fentanyl and all of that.
It's really terrifying.
Yeah, it
It
is.
really is. I mean, more important than ever for us to do this work. More important than ever. I don't see any signs of the fentanyl stopping from flooding through our borders. And so, more than ever, we have a sense of urgency. And we need to talk to our legislators.
Yes.
Yes.
So there's a plan, and that's some of what Mobilized Recovery is doing, is that they brought a bunch of organizations together collectively, people and organizations together, so that we could start unifying all
Yeah.
the amazing resources around the country so that we could bring them together. And then that's where California Recovers came. I knew I wanted to do a nonprofit. I really did. I wanted to do something because I saw and I see, and I'm involved in the for-profit things around the country and how those are helping people, but there's more people dying every day that have no resources. And they deserve a chance to live. And I want them to be able to there's a lot of organizations nationwide that can help people. And I want to unify that. So that's where California Recovers started, was just like Georgia Recovers, there's Nevada, there's all these other states around United States that have amazing existing organizations already.
Yeah.
And I just wanted California to have more of those, and so do they. They're very supportive of what we're doing, and there's a lot of unity amongst many different types of nonprofit organizations and organizations that are for profit too. They're just trying to do the right things for the right reasons.
Absolutely. Can you tell us just really briefly about the time that you spent kind of on the road looking at some of these other organizations?
Yeah, it was a brief period of time. I did spend some time in Nevada, and what I started to experience is is a lot like what Ryan and Garrett experienced, was going across the country, is that there are a ton of things going on around the country that are really helping people. So Georgia, I eventually ended up in Georgia, and Georgia Council on Substance Abuse was so generous and kind to let me into their doors and into their establishments. And Neil Campbell, and she let me into her wonderful world, and really I had an opportunity to spend time with a lot of her employees, and we spent time inside of all of their organizations where they spent real quality time with me, hours of time.
What a privilege.
Yes. And I got an opportunity to travel throughout Georgia State and look at many of their RCOs, which are recovery community organizations. That's what their Georgia Council on Substance Abuse put together. That's one of their organizations within their organization. And there are 30 of them in Georgia. Currently, we have 6 in California, apparently. And I'm still on my
Wow,
quest.
we're a lot bigger than Georgia, so we should have more than 30.
Yes.
So we got to keep looking, right?
Yeah, so that's going to be another whole conversation piece on how that's going to be more developed here in California. And California Recovers will contribute a lot to getting those organizations up and running.
Tell us a little bit about what you hope to accomplish with California Recovers. What do you see as its primary objective?
Well, one thing I think is super important is be in front of our Congress and legislation and be having some some town halls, having some important people people come that understand what these bills are and how they affect our direct communities. And I need people to be able to come in and talk about that and share that with our communities to educate us and update us on what they are and what they mean and how they can benefit us as a community of recovery.
So one of the priorities of California Recover is to influence legislation around substance use and mental health issues. And that's very exciting because some of the changes that need to take place cannot take place until the laws are changed. And we know we've got some upcoming bills right now. So talk a little bit about the town hall meeting, the fact that we want to bring folks in and find out even if there's some folks out there that would like to write letters and go speak to our lawmakers.
Yeah, well, currently on my California Recovers, as of today, I'll post it on there. Also, coming from Ryan Hampton's Mobilized Recovery Advocacy, the Advocacy Project. Well, we have a bill, we have a letter there on that social media network that people can sign and educate themselves more on what these 2 particular bills are.
Okay.
So what I'm doing a call to action to our community, basically here, even locally in Riverside County, LA County, Orange County, Sacramento, all over California, is I'm doing a call to action looking for people who know currently more about the bills and I'd have to pull it up off my cell phone. We have 2 bills that I'm talking to the Kennedy Forum, which in our next conversation, I'll have more information about. But
Fantastic.
People in our community that know something about legislation for mental health, substance use, recovery community organizations, and how we can get the funds that are available that come from the settlements from the big pharma, them claiming bankruptcy. There's money involved in Congress that's specifically for grassroots organizations
Right.
and recovery community organizations.
Which brings up another purpose of California Recovers, and that is to look for ways to fund and to assist financially these recovery organizations throughout California.
Yes, that's
very exciting.
And a lot of our experience, the ability to get these things going is going to be off of the other states that are currently already
Sure.
doing. They're so
Yeah.
generous with their process.
No need to create the wheel again.
That's the big saying amongst Mobilized Recovery. Yes, no sense in recreating the wheel.
And I certainly hope that we can get folks from Mobilized Recovery to come and talk with us too.
We will.
That'd
for
be
sure.
great.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that would be great. Yes.
So, with regards to California Recovery, we've talked about providing information on legislation. We've talked about connecting the various recovery organizations. And is there anything else that California Recovers is going to be doing with regards to supporting these recovery communities?
Well, let's see. We're going to be influencing policy and procedures. We're going to be collecting funds for recovery community. We're going to be doing statewide networking for people, community-based recovery support services. Let's see what else.
So you were talking the other day about the various trainings that you wanted to bring in for the recovery organizations. So whatever their leadership is, they'll come to us and we'll provide.
Well, yeah, that's going to be a whole nother conversation piece when we talk more about the recovery community organizations and how we do our symposiums and how we do our listenings. So basically, we would be doing some outreach to the communities here, our local business folks, and our churches, different business owners, community, our education system, anyone who wants to come and have a conversation with us about what type of challenges that they're having in their settings for mental health and substance use. And then I want to do listenings where I listen to them talk about what it is that they need, what type of issues that they have. Then I'll take that back to California Recovers, and as a team of folks, we will collaborate on what we can do, and then we will host a symposium, which will be for our local providers in our community, how we can network to provide these needs for our community, and then that will eventually produce what's called a recovery community organization, which will be a center basically similar to what we have, exactly what we got going on in here. And someone will run that community, and I am sure that there are already existing organizations in this community right here where we're at in Riverside that are already amazing.
Oh, they are, yeah.
I want to know about them.
Lots of good work going on by lots of great people.
And I want them to be our allies. We need to be, doing unified stuff together. How can we, as California Recover, how can I help them provide? I want to provide them with the funds that they need in order to get their organization better at what they're doing. A lot of those organizations need computers. They need paint on the walls. Their windows are falling off. They just don't have, they're amazing people doing amazing things, and they don't have the money and the resources. So I want California Recovers to be able to provide them with the resources to be able to get those organizations running really well and helping as many people as possible.
Yeah. I love that idea because when you're working alone trying to help a community, that's what you feel like. You feel like you're at it all alone and it's you against the world and nobody else really cares. But by connecting all of these recovery organizations, we're able to get a real network so that each one feels supported, not just by us, but by each other.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
That's the kind of community that we really need to face the epidemic that we're experiencing right now.
Yes. So that is my heart, and my main passion for all of this is because there are so many people suffering and dying right now. And when they need help, they call. We have a 211 here, which is remarkable. That's great. You pick up a phone, any phone, and you call 211, and you can get an amazing. But the bottom line is that who walks with that person when they say there's food here, there's clothing here, there's treatment services here. It's like, who walks with that person? To get to it's impossible oftentimes when somebody is so down and out to be able to make those other phone calls. 211 will provide them phone numbers, and who sits with them. So these recovery community organizations and these organizations throughout the communities actually will sit down with that person and walk through, okay, this is how you call this, and this is how you get on the bus. This is where you get a bus pass, etc.
Right. Well, what's really exciting in California, and even more specifically in Riverside County, although we're seeing some exciting things going on in the other counties too, is the huge explosion of peer support and people who are in recovery with their own stories, providing services to people. And there's an abundance of these well-trained, hardworking folks here. So I love the idea of being able to connect all of that together as well.
Yeah.
Who better to help our people, right?
Right, but peers, people who have the lived experience, whether it's a mother or a grandmother or a child of a folks that have had mental health or substance abuse. It's like that's a lived experience, whether you've ever put substances in your body or not, or ever had the mental health diagnosis, but you've had loved ones.
Yeah.
Maybe you've even been a volunteer in your community and you've had a passion for it. It's like that's lived experience because you've exposed yourself to people and have had that experience with them as they have their substance abuse or mental health.
And what a privilege to see people that have gone from, the dregs of society, wearing professional clothes and going to work in an office for a government agency, helping so many people. It's exciting. It's an exciting time to be here in California.
Yeah.
So with that as a base, man, really excited about what you're doing here.
Thank you.
So you have some needs right now. California Recovers has some needs. Is there anything that we or our listeners can help with?
Well, we need seed money.
Okay.
So we haven't yet got California Recovers up and moving as we have California Recovers has been doing amazing things, and we just need some basic things, and that's what the seed money would provide. It would provide enough money to be able to get our media equipment and do the different things that I need in order to be able to get the word out there about California Recovers. And when we get before the Congress or people in the legislation, and when we have conversations at the town halls and we're at the churches and different things, I need media equipment so that I can interview and so that we can have more conversations like this when I'm out in the community trying to get the monies and be able to get the funding that we need in order to get this thing rolling. So first is the seed money. It's just a few $1,000s that we need and we need an attorney because we need somebody to look over all of our documents to make sure that we're crossing all our T's and dotting all our I's. We need to have
grant writer.
We need someone to put our 501(c)(3) together, and anybody else that's out there that's just like, oh, I want to do this for this organization. Rather it's put stamps on envelopes, or if you feel
or be a speaker.
Yes.
Because of course we're looking for people who are willing to tell their personal recovery stories on film so that we can share that in California.
And it's not just people who are living on a bus stop.
Of course not.
It affects it doesn't matter,
Everyone.
high class, low class. That's not really the best description, but that's what society kind of
place
thinks
to
of.
park bench.
Yes.
Yeah.
And everyone, so I don't want anyone to feel excluded if you're having these experiences and you've had these overcomings. I want to hear from you.
Absolutely, 100%. So it'll be exciting as more and more people become involved, and we are able to tap into their gifts and talents. So we need a grant writer, we need an attorney, we need some speakers, people willing to speak, and just some people willing to volunteer.
Volunteers,
just to do the
tons
work.
of volunteers.
Yeah. A lot of work to do.
There's positions available for the board. So if people have had nonprofit experiences and they're aware of what we might need, bring it on. Any suggestions, support. There's some online presence for social media, and we can have the person get in touch with us on social media. There's email on there, and we'll be providing all of that through this podcast.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Well, I'm really excited. I'm really, really excited about the upcoming California Recovers activities. And I'm looking forward to the next best and greatest thing. I guess we'll be talking to Jim Baldwin next week.
Yes, from
Smile Seekers.
Yes.
Yeah.
He's known me since he knew me he's known me about probably 30 years, 25 years. And he knew me when I was clean in my early 20s and active in my recovery. And then I relapsed at 26. And so he had the opportunity to experience me when I was completely at the lowest point of my entire life. And he's been witnessing and watching me change and grow, and what I've been doing over the last almost 20 years. On May 7th, it will be 20 years of continuous long-term
Oh,
sobriety in
congratulations.
ways of no substances.
20 years.
Yeah, 20 years,
Yeah.
coming up on 20 years.
That's a bunch. You got clean pretty young, didn't you?
I did the first time, and I was 17 then, and then I was 28 when I
Yeah.
came back this time. 20
That's really
years.
exciting. Well, I think that's about all we have for today. We want to talk about the coronavirus outbreak. Okay, well, I had planned to go to China, as you know, and my trip was scheduled for March. And of course, then we started hearing this news coming out about people getting sick. And it's become a pandemic. And of course, now I'm not going to China or anywhere in Asia, for that matter. What do you think about them bringing the folks and putting them right out here at March Air Force Base?
Well, of course, it's a little alarming, and honestly, it's for me. I feel like the best I could do is in this moment is yesterday when I was at a treatment center for substance use recovery. I went into the cleaning supplies.
Yeah?
I
Yeah.
do what I can do. What
Yeah.
I can do is make sure that entire place was disinfected for all the people that are coming from
Yes,
all over
yes,
the
yes,
country
yes.
there, and they're in the darkest, and they've been in the darkest places, and they're going through their detoxes.
Yeah.
I wanted to make sure
They
that
were
everything was
clean.
very sanitized, and that's
Yeah.
how I handle the people being right here at March Air Force Base or around the entire continent, because what can I do? That's what I can do.
Yeah.
I don't know that there's anything else I could do about
Right,
the coronavirus.
right.
It's terrifying.
It is terrifying.
It is.
It is. So we wash our hands a lot. We use
Yes.
a lot of hand
Yes.
sanitizer, just basic precautions. But ultimately, I think coronavirus is like almost anything that we encounter as people in recovery. It's just one more thing to either take us out or for us to manage. And coronavirus is a big thing when you think in terms of the amount of people that are dying. But I can't make it keep me at home or stop me from interacting with other people. And those poor folks at March Air Force Base, they had to go somewhere, right? American citizens, they had to go somewhere. It's scary.
Yeah.
It really is scary.
It is. I'm just grateful that there was some place like March Air Force Base for them to be able to go.
Yeah.
So that's great.
Absolutely.
And I look forward to this getting a handle.
Getting a handle on it, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, scary for everybody. And of course, our people are all around the world, the people that we love and care for. But in California, hopefully, we'll keep those numbers down. Have we even had anyone get sick in California yet with coronavirus?
I believe so. I could check.
Maybe one or two. But boy, why did you have us talk about coronavirus? This is kind of a downer at the very end. Kind of a downer. Well, thank you very much.
It's a good topic.
It is a good topic.
It is a big topic in our
Well,
society.
And not just that, but a lot of people that are in our communities are experiencing a lot of fear around it. I mean,
Yeah.
significant fear.
Yeah, well, and it's like, what can you do? That's the most important thing. It's like, what
Yeah.
can we do? I guess the masks are not as effective, but a lot of people are using them. And, I think
They
that
say washing your hands as much as
There
possible.
are new cases in California and in Texas.
Oh.
That was there was a news article posted about 2 hours ago talking about it.
And where's that news article at? Can you tell me so I can let the
The
people know?
Daily Beast. I'm not sure how reputable that is.
Okay,
It might not be.
but nevertheless.
Yeah. But honestly, I can understand now why you maybe wanted to talk about it, because this is an issue that affects everybody
Yeah.
and everyone. And of course, our community is particularly vulnerable.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Particularly
Yes.
vulnerable.
Yes. So, yeah, big deal.
It is a big deal.
It says the U.S. total is only 15, so it's not to the any big numbers yet in
Yeah.
the United States.
And let's
Compared-
keep it that way. Let's keep those numbers low.
To China.
Well, Miss Kymberly Lind, Executive Director of California Recovers, thanks for taking time with me today.
Yeah, thank you
I
for
had
being
fun.
here. I had fun too.
Yeah, it's fun.
I absolutely adore you.
Until
and thank
next
you.
week.
Thank you for, what is your position? Let's talk about
Let's
you
see.
a little
Okay,
bit with
so
California Recovers.
trying to reach around and try and figure out how I can best serve the organization. And we came up with a policy and planning director. And so that will be my role. Unless you need me to
exciting.
do something else at a later date, and we'll change the roles.
Well.
That's the great thing about being in the beginning of this, is that we're in the creation stage. And of course, things are going to change as we go along, but that's part of the excitement, isn't it?
Yeah, I would like to do this same podcast talking about you and how you see
my story.
Yeah, your story and how you ended up here
How
right
I
now
ended
with
up here.
California Recovers.
Yeah, we could do that.
Yeah, that would be great.
Yeah,
I would
maybe the
really,
week after
really,
next,
I
after
would really
June.
like that. I think that would be important to do.
Okay, we'll try.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
thanks again. Really, really appreciate it. And
Thank you.
Yeah.
Because, the one main thing is, even like with Reed, who's doing all of this awesome stuff here, he's doing all this filming and things. There's no way any of us can do it alone.
yeah.
And I am not doing this. Is not what Kymberly, the executive's doing at all. I'm so sure that I am doing this because it's meant to be done. And I am sure that there's supposed to be a ton of other people that are supposed to be doing
Yes,
whatever it is that
yes,
you're doing.
yes.
Because I don't know what I'm doing necessarily. I'm just a willing participant.
Hey,
and
we all have
totally
our gifts
open.
and talents.
And that's why I'm doing that call to action. So whoever's out there that has support, suggestions, experience,
We need them.
Please don't be shy.
Yeah, we need you.
Listen to your calling heart. Listen to your skills and ability. Offer them. We need them. I'm open for it. I look forward to it.
So we'll provide a phone number, email, and a link to our Facebook page. And we'll look forward to seeing you all back at the next podcast.
Thank you.
Thank you, Kymberly.
All right. Bravo.
Well,